Welcome to Solutions with Courtney Anderson. I am Courtney Anderson, your host and guide for the show today. I am so thrilled that you took time out of your life to be part of our program. As always, I want to encourage you to stop by CourtneyAnderson.com. We have been in a period of growth and change, and so with the success of the program, which I am ecstatic about, we've expanded our website. So come on by. We're doing everything we can to add new content and to provide different ways for you to surpass your goals every day at CourtneyAnderson.com. I also encourage you, of course, to go to iTunes and leave a rating, feedback for the show, and give us your show suggestions and let us know what's on your mind. So today we have a show. This is episode number 147. Episode number 147. Wow. Amazing. Of our daily show, Solutions with Courtney Anderson. So thank you for letting us get to 147 shows in. This is a show that's part of our Management Magicians series. Our Management Magicians series, of course, is an entire series devoted to honoring, embracing, sharing, reminiscing, living every way that we possibly can to learn from those who voluntarily enter into service as a manager. They are the entity that is in charge of getting stuff done at organizations, and they do it so deftly, so effortlessly, seemingly effortlessly, that it looks like magic. They're management magicians, and that's what this entire series is devoted to, giving them the credit and talking about the ways that they do things where it becomes almost magical to the outside observer. And if you're not a management magician, and you aspire to be, this series, of course, is dedicated to helping you achieve that goal. If you are already a management magician, congratulations and keep it up. Keep it up. We want you to know that we appreciate you and the work that you do every day in every way makes a positive impact in our entire society globally. So thank you. So here we are in our Management Magicians series, and our specific show today is an interesting episode topic. The episode topic is being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. So this is an interesting show topic title, and in the show notes, which of course come to CourtneyAnderson.com, episode 147, we've got a whole page dedicated to each episode of the show. Sometimes multiple pages, depending on how much content we have. But in the show notes, it shares that the title originally was from a quote that's attributed to Margaret Thatcher. And of course, Margaret Thatcher was former British Prime Minister. And relatively recently, there was a big motion picture made about her life, and starring Meryl Streep, which is one of my favorite actresses, Meryl Streep. And so I provided the link in the show notes for you to go see where one of the sources claims that this quote was attributed to Margaret Thatcher. And the whole idea, of course, Margaret Thatcher was a female leader, and in a historical time period, of course, where you hadn't seen that type of power wielded, and in modern times, of course. And so the idea here, and this is my interpretation, is really fascinating. And I'm not at all addressing opinions or discussions about actual analysis of the leadership of Margaret Thatcher. I'm just using this as a source, and certainly I don't think it's debatable that she certainly has been a historical figure. And so the idea here, I think, is multi-layered. One is this idea of managers and, of course, leaders. Now, I've a lot of discussion. We've done programs. How much of a leader does a manager need to be? How much of a manager does a leader need to be? please check those programs out if you haven't. But the whole idea here is about power. And my interpretation again is that you don't walk into a room, right, and say to people in a business meeting, "Hello, my name is Courtney Anderson. I am powerful. I am strong. I am smart. I am a good person." You don't say things like that. Often in most cultures, it sounds inappropriate. Now, it might sound inappropriate for different reasons. Some cultures, people would think, well, wow, talk about an ego, right? In some cultures, it's just odd. Um, Look, in the show notes, I mentioned that this brings up the whole idea of soft power, and uh, it I put a couple of links. I put another link where I talked about this whole idea came from another historical politician, a former president of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. So Theodore Roosevelt had this saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Now, of course, both the quote from Margaret Thatcher, attributed to Margaret Thatcher, and the one attributed to Theodore Roosevelt, again, not getting into discussion about what they did, what it meant in terms of geopolitics, what it meant in terms of their um, uh, policies. What I'm arguing, though, is the idea that you and I, all of us, have power. The question is, how do we wield it? And how much of power is perceived? So looking again at the show topic here, right? It's in the idea, if you have to say you're a lady, you aren't, right? Right? Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. And the whole idea, let's sort of again think that maybe, now these again, I'm not getting to the very, very important, gender and political um, meanings and consequences of this. But let's just sort of take a stereotypical, very big picture position. If you have the idea that being a lady, right? So that's someone who's of a refined, that is someone who is a respected lady, right? So I'm a lady. I carry myself in a certain way. I'm treated as a lady. I'm sort of possessing this quality of who I am, versus someone who's not a lady. And there's a lot of many times derogatory words that are applied to a female who's perceived as not being a lady. She's not as refined. She's not as special. And the point is, you don't say this. You don't walk into a social, cocktail party and say to people, "I'm a lady. Treat me as a lady." You don't say this. You're perceived as this, right? That's the whole title of the show. If you have to say you are, you aren't. You have to say to somebody, "Hey, I'm a lady. Treat me like a lady." And again, not touching the stereotypes and some of the very, very important issues that touch on this entire construction. The reason I'm not touching it is because A, we don't have anywhere near the time in the show to address it, but I'm mentioning it because I'm not unaware of it. I'm not unaware of it, and I want that to be um, articulated. So that analogy is only interesting in how it relates to this idea of power and what we're doing in our management discussion. What we're saying is, look, if you have to walk into your team meeting, right? You're the manager, you're the supervisor. You have to walk into your team meeting and say to people things like, "Well, I'm the manager. I'm telling you what the policy is, and I'm the manager." It's also analogous to the situation, where you get the stereotypical family, and I talk a ton in all of our programs, but definitely our management program, in our Management Magicians series and our HR Heroes series, about analogies to your life outside of your work and in your work, because many of these lessons are very easy if we expand the idea of management, think management outside the home. So you think of a family, right? And you think of a family, you got some minor family members, maybe a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. Okay, so if you have the adult come in to the family dining area and say to the 7-year-old and the 10-year-old, "It's my house. And as long as you're living in my house and under my roof, you're going to live by my rules, right? So, this is what we're going to do. This is, your toys are going to go over there, and this is what we're going to eat because I'm in charge. I'm the leader. I'm the parent. It's my house. This whole idea again, as long as you're in my house, you're going to go by my rules, right? Once you get to that discussion where you have somebody, often they're questioned, right? So the minor aged team members of a family will say to the adult, well, why do we have to put our toys there? Well, why do we have to eat, these vegetables? And then they'll get in response, well, as long as you're in my house, my rules, I'm in charge, right? And that's the same kind of idea here. The moment you have to say you're you're in charge, then you really aren't, because they wouldn't have asked, right? They're challenging your authority. That's the whole problem, depending on how you look at it. At work, if you have to stand there and say to people, I'm in charge, you're not in charge. If you have to say to somebody, and again, we're not going to harp on this, but I'm very aware of the gender and the power dynamics of using this whole idea of a lady, but I understand. At least I have my interpretation of understanding why it was used, especially coming from a female um, political leader. If you have to say you are that thing, you aren't that thing. And as it relates to power, just think of it again. If it's like using again these gender issues, it's like going into a social event, right? So a lady goes into a social event, or a female, let's say a female goes into a social event, and starts saying to people, I'm pretty. Look how pretty and attractive I am. If you have to say to people I'm pretty and attractive, you aren't pretty and attractive. Or if you are, there's something else going on there, because there's not a society I know where you say things like that. Now, other people may come to you and say, oh, you look really nice today, or you look really pretty, or to a gentleman, oh, you look so handsome. Um, they're acknowledging their perception, or at least they're telling you what they think you want to hear. But if you have to say it and proclaim it, you're not it. That's why you're having to say it and proclaim it. This is not something, and if you look in the show notes, I have a note I've written down. and I said this in the show notes. I said, you don't pronounce power. You possess it, project it, and wield it. You don't pronounce power. You possess it, project it, and wield it. You could substitute other qualities. You don't have a parent stand in a room of young age children in a home and scream and yell at them, or say loudly and assertively, I'm the parent, I'm the parent, I'm the parent. Because what is that doing? Nothing. Especially if the person's doing that while the young children run around and throw their toys wherever they want to, refuse to eat, and completely ignore them. And how many of us have seen this? Whether it was someone else's home, um, a television or film depiction of this. I mean, we've all seen this, right? And we've seen it in real life. I know I've gone to the store or the market and seen adults with young children, and they're saying, stop it, my rules, and the child is completely ignoring them and throwing things or screaming and yelling. Um, and standing there and saying I'm the parent is useless, because they're not you don't you're not you're not in charge. And we've done other programs already, and we've got many other programs designed in the future where we go in depth and start walking through, why is this? Why can't I just say I'm this thing and be that thing? um, you can say that thing, but in terms of outcomes, in terms of behavior, we have to remember, why do people do what they do, right? You're a manager. So you're in charge of managing what? Managing resources, people, products, services. That's you. You're in charge of managing to get stuff done that your customer, client, um, taxpayer, whatever entity that you serve wants and or needs. So why do people do what they do? We've done a lot on this, and it's one of my repeated concepts that I reinforce. And my argument is, why do people do what they do? Because they want to and they're allowed to. Because they want to and they're allowed to. We can't do anything to control externally what somebody else wants. We can set up conditions to try to influence how they feel and what they think they want, but we can't get in their heads and just manipulate it 100%. What we can control is what they're allowed to do. So you don't stand there and say, I'm powerful. What you do is you exert the power that you already have. How do you have power? You took it. We are humans. And I know I will go to the last day of my time in this life as I know it, fascinated by all of that. The physiology, the chemistry, the biology. We're fascinating. I think many other organisms are fascinating too, right? Um, and, but I mean, oh my goodness, there's so much about us, right? Why do we behave like we do? How do we relate to each other? We communicate so much that's nonverbal, and a lot of that is because as organisms relate to each other physically, visually, um, auditorily, in terms of our scent. I mean, there's so many things that go into who we are and how other people perceive us. And the way that you take and demonstrate power is by you do things and you convey to other people when you enter a room confidence, strength, leadership. And you do that without saying anything. How do you do it? Well, we've done, I certainly over many years, lots of different parts of this. So part of what it is, right, about being powerful is the external, what I was just sort of talking about a little bit. It's not what you say. Remember, there's lots of different data out there, but some of the data says that when we communicate to other people, so when I'm communicating to somebody, hey, I'm a horrible person, I'm an awful person, I'm a powerful person, I'm a weak person, I'm a lady, or I'm not a lady, I'm a person of ill repute. Whatever it is we're conveying to people, somewhere about 7% of that is the actual word, right? So when I say I'm powerful, it's about 7% of the message. The rest of the message, 93% of the message of conveying to somebody that I'm powerful, is nonverbal. It's non-verbal. What does that mean? It's what it sounds like. It's not verbal. It's not words. Well, what is it? It's everything else about you. It's visual, the look. It's auditory. It's the sound. It's the tone of your voice. It's how you say things. It's not the words, but it's how you say it. So in other words, let's take a simple word, the word yes, right? That's a simple word. Um, People struggle and they say, "Oh, well, I don't understand. How am I supposed to be powerful if I don't say to people I'm powerful? How am I supposed to do that? How do I do that at home with my family? How do I do that at work with my team members as a manager?" Okay, so let's take the word yes. YES, yes. Remember, 7%, we're just taking this for right now as a data point, is the word, yes, the meaning, looking in the dictionary, which, if you've been part of our other programs, and many, many, many of our programs, what I do is I go right to the dictionary, and I start looking at dictionary definitions, and we start analyzing and looking at solutions based on dictionary definitions, because what does the dictionary say? The challenge, though, is that's only 7% of the message. So I could say this word, YES, I could say it in a way that conveys a lack of power. So I could say it like this: yes, 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 yes. Now, see there at the end, I raised the pitch of my voice toward the end. So it becomes a question. Yes. It could be, all of those are very non powerful ways to communicate. Yes, 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 yes. Right? Same exact word, a little bit more assertive. Yes, yes. Now, lowering the pitch toward the end of what you're saying has a totally different impact instead of raising the pitch, which made it more of a question, right? I could be really assertive with it. and say to people, yes, 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 yes. Now, all of this is the same word. And we have other programs. We do a whole series on communication, on tone, on speech, on dress. My point is simply this. The whole idea here is if you think you have to say to people, I'm in charge, I'm the leader, you're not. Because if you really were in charge, everybody knows it. And you know it. You're not going around asking people. When I say you take power, I really do mean that. You decide, I'm in charge. It could be of a family, it could be of a business unit, it could be of a project at your volunteer organization. I don't care what it is, but you decide. And you also have to decide what they talk about in society, and different types of settings talks about in terms of boundaries, right? The whole idea that we teach people how to treat us. A boundary is you're teaching other people, this is my line. You're not going to cross this line. I will not allow that behavior around me. It's a boundary. How do you assert a boundary? Well, you do maybe put it in writing or use the words, but then you give a consequence to people in real life and help them understand, no. No. Now, of course, you could use the word no, just like you can use the word yes, and have it convey a lack of power. I hear it all the time. You could say to somebody, no, no, no. What's the difference between saying to somebody, no, or no? It's a big difference. That's the same word. This show again is fascinating to me because people say, well, how do you know if you're powerful? My goodness gracious. It starts, I'm arguing, and I often argue internally. So, do you want to be powerful? If you don't, then you want to re-examine whether or not you're in a situation where you're not going to be happy. We talk about this all the time in practicing the joyful art of business, right? Don't do something just because other people think you should do it. You should do things because you want to do it. And even if you're given an opportunity to be in a powerful position, right, a job title or something like that, if you don't personally decide to take the power and to teach other people that you're powerful, then you're going to have a situation where you're a leader in name only. And how many of us who are not fortunate enough to have only been around management magicians? Many of us have a diversity of experience where we've been around management magicians who are the most, the best at what they do. Seems like magic, they do it so well. High retention, empowerment with their team members. I mean, it's beautiful when it works. Just like a family, right? A person who's managing their household, a parent. It's beautiful when it works. Respect and cooperation, you know, trust. These are all the characteristics of somebody who's a management magician. This is what they do. They create these environments and they sustain them. It's outstanding. But some of us have had experience where we've either observed or been around or even worked with or even lived with people who were not management magicians. And then it's horrible, right? You've got turnover, you have distrust, you have disrespect. It's just a really difficult situation because you don't have anybody that's able to create a structure of trust, which is based on safety, equality, consistency. So, for those of us who've seen people who are not management magicians, we understand how stressful it is when someone has just decided they're a leader in name only. So, even though they're a parent, and that's only a name because their children totally disrespect them and ignore them and berate them and sometimes even abuse them. It's awful. And we certainly see this in work settings where someone is supposed to be, right, the putative leader, and they're ignored, they're sidelined, they're mocked, they're humiliated, um, they're disrespected. Now, how does that happen, right? If the words were enough to convey with them the actual real life behavior, then it would never happen that you'd have somebody who's labeled as, vice president or, parent, and yet they're humiliated, disrespected, ignored, marginalized, berated, and sometimes abused. It wouldn't happen because the title itself, the word should convey the power if it was an accurate statement that just saying you're powerful is enough. It isn't. We all know this because whether it's been in your own life or something you've seen or observed or something you've even seen or read about in a media or an artistic expression, film or a show or a play. So, to me, those types of anecdotal experiences supplemented with credible sources and data shows us that, yeah, just saying you're powerful isn't enough. Otherwise, you would never have that situation where somebody's supposed to be in charge, but they really aren't, right? So it's not enough to say it, which is what the whole point of the episode is, right? Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. And that's accurate. So what can we do about it? Because everything that we do is all about surpassing our goals, right? I mentioned earlier my assertion, which again is in the show notes. Of course, come to courtneyerson.com, episode 147. And my pronouncement, well, it is, is you don't pronounce power. You possess it. Let's stop there for a second. My argument is we all possess power. Now, where it comes from is a wholly different question. Some people, it comes from their environment and their family and friends. It comes from their loved ones. It comes from some people. It comes from their work. Some people, it comes from um, the way they were raised and their life experience. Sometimes it comes from. Some people believe it comes from they've inherited it. Some people believe it comes from their ethical framework. Some people believe it comes from a religious or spiritual and artistic um, perspective. Okay, no matter where you attribute it comes from, my argument is you and I have it, and so does everybody else. Now, we have different types of things that we're interested in. So, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, we're not going to go out and wield power all over everything we do. I don't need to be the most powerful carpenter and the most powerful opera singer and the most powerful janitor and the most powerful aunt and the most powerful best friend. I mean, I don't there's a lot of different things that we have opportunities to spend our time on. So it's not necessarily going to be even feasible to go out and claim you need to be the most powerful everything all the time. And we've done other programs where we talk about this. When you want to when you need to when you want to feel that it's a good decision to make to step up and lead, and when you need to step back and let somebody else lead. And we talked about the balance of this for our own health. We need to experience a variety and diversity of experiences. But when you're in a situation where you've decided, okay, now this is it. I want to lead this family. I want to lead this department. I want to lead my business. Okay. And you're getting good returns on your investment, your ROI in terms of your emotions and your psychology. You feel excited or interested. You like what you do. More often than not. Not every second of every minute is joyful and ecstasy, but overwhelming, more big picture, more often than not, you like it. You look forward to it. It's interesting. Then keep doing that. And when you have the power, wherever you attribute it came from or wherever you attribute supports you, um, then my argument though is we all have it. You got to be judicious in where you're going to deploy it because we don't have enough time, and as we understand it, to be all powerful in everything. And it also again leads to a lack of balance and can lead to hubris and all types of sometimes maladaptive behaviors where somebody becomes so narcissistic they really believe they are the most powerful of everything all the time, and that's just not rational. And again, diversity is the key. We need to have experiences that are different so we can experience different sides of ourselves and learn more about ourselves. But once we decide, I'm arguing you and I, we have power. What are you going to do with it is the question. I'm saying be judicious and deploy it in those areas and in those tasks that you enjoy and where you get good returns on investment, as long as you have to remember you want to be balanced. So many times you're going to be powerful, many times you have not power, you're not going to be power at all. We talked about this in another program. We talked about lead, follow, or get out of the way, right? When do you lead? When do you follow? And when do you get out of the way? How do you project power? That's what I was alluding to earlier. It's in everything other than the words in terms of priorities. So the words are, they're part of it, but they're somewhere around 7%. So the rest of it is the rest of your tone, your projection, literally projecting your voice. So you use your diaphragm and you're going to push the air up and out. That's a lot of what the difference is between sounding like you don't have power and you do. The difference between yes And yes, literally you're projecting. It's the tone, right? So whether we're ended with our pitch going up or our pitch going down, um, you can literally you can hear power. You can. You can. What you really can hear is confidence. So what you're really hearing is that the person themselves believes this, right? So if somebody's giving a presentation at work and they're saying, "This is absolutely what we're going to do. We are going to move forward with this initiative. This is our initiative, and it's going to be fantastic, and we are just going to make it happen." Okay, they believe it, or at least they are good enough at communication. Some people are good enough actors where they'll believe it in the minute, right? And they convince you. It's the same thing with a family. If a parent comes home and says to the family, "Hey, everybody, we're moving," that sounds not powerful, and it's a question. Who's in charge would be what I would think if I was somebody in that family. It's very different from somebody saying, "Hey, family, we're moving." That's a statement. It's an enthusiastic and positive statement. We're going to do this, and that's the part about the projecting it. Now we didn't even get to that. I'm just talking about the listening. Now you add in your visual, so your posture, how you stand, how you sit, how you hold your body up. Is it one that conveys strength? Is it one that conveys weakness? Usually, the more rounded and smaller you sort of hunch over, the more that you're conveying you're not powerful. It's not your size. It's not how tall or how small or any of that. It's how you fill your own space, if that makes sense. Okay. And then the other visuals. So depending on what you're doing and the culture and all the other multiple situations, there are going to be some basics. Um, Hygiene. Now, there's different expectations culturally in different parts of the world, but in general, we want to be whatever the version of clean. We want to feel clean and project other people that we smell. Our hygiene is, head to toe, taken care of. It sounds like something that people sometimes say, "Well, why are we talking about this? We're talking about elite level management." Well, yeah, but this is a big deal, and then when we talk about it in depth and we share, we have anecdotal experiences or people who have been around somebody who didn't take care of the hygiene issue, and then I can stand here all day and bring out case studies and lawsuits where people had this. It costs people their entire career. So yeah, it matters. It matters a lot, actually, right? We are organisms, and these things matter. And then, of course, you want to wear whatever attire is appropriate for culturally and geographically and whatever the job is. And again, it's how you wear it. It doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be anything that you invest money in. It just needs to be appropriately, again, clean. And then you need to wear it in a way that, again, fits in with that message you're saying to the world. I'm powerful because I believe I'm powerful. And for people who have this sense of their own self and sense of ability, some call it self-confidence. The really wonderful thing is if you have it, it can't be taken away from you because it comes from you. You believed it. You believed it before you walked in the room. You believed it before you started the presentation. You believed it. And that's part of the reasons it's so attractive to people. There's another one of these came again. So this came out of politics, right? I'm attributing it to a politician, right? Being powerful is like being a lady. If you have to say you are, you aren't. And then in the show notes, there's a link to another politician. It's this whole idea you're going to speak softly. I don't have to yell and scream and pronounce it, but I'm going to carry a big stick, meaning I have a consequence. There's a way you understand that even though I'm speaking softly, that there's going to be a consequence. Now, again, we're not touching the policy and the geopolitical ramifications of that, but what I'm saying is that even person to person, I referred to earlier boundaries that you teach people. I don't have to yell and scream or cheerlead and shriek, but you understand that there's consequences. I'm carrying a big stick. I'm going to teach you that if that's how you're going to disrespect me or ignore me or be cruel to me or humiliate me, then there's going to be a consequence. I won't tolerate it. And the just the power of that you won't tolerate something is amazing because it's I continue to be fascinated by how much people will tolerate. Sort of how low can you go with being demeaned and humiliated or even abused? So when you have somebody who says, and then more importantly means it, they won't tolerate something, it does send a message, because it's not, I would argue, the norm. People will tolerate a lot more than you would think from just sort of external analysis. You would think, well, no one would tolerate that. And then, yep, they do. And for hugely, incredibly impressive long amounts of time. So again, the power, you already possess it. How you attribute that, or where you believe it comes from, or how you maintain it, that's your internal discussion. And we do other shows where we talk about that. My discussion here is that you need to project it, and that's again how you say it. And the whole idea of being authentic, the idea that you really believe it. Believe what? Believe that you have value. That's what I believe. I believe I have value and you have value. I believe we have equal value. So that means if you have value, then your ideas have value, right? And same for me. And that, I really believe this. So I don't have fear when I go to give a question or ask something, and sometimes people say, well, oh, I just didn't want to say anything. I thought it was stupid. And I know that a lot of the questions I ask are stupid. I know that people who know more than I do would sometimes they say to me to my face, "You're an idiot. That was stupid." Okay, I still don't feel anything other than pride in the fact that I asked it, because I don't ask questions that I don't know the answer to. Sometimes when I'm teaching or something, we're doing some sort of Socratic questioning, but when I genuinely ask somebody, it's because I honestly don't know. And if I don't ask, then how will I figure it out? And I'm not going to just stand there, in my head, worried and wondering and don't know what to do. I'm going to ask. And if other people think I'm stupid, fine. I don't care. I needed to know. And a lot of the things I ask questions about are my areas where I have no level of expertise. So if something's gone wrong with my vehicle, my automobile, I ask the mechanic. I really don't know much about this or anything. I ask. And my core belief that I have value isn't ever impacted, because I believe I have values. In my mind, that means, yeah, if I do something that other people, even sometimes myself, might think, well, that was really stupid. So I did a stupid thing. That doesn't mean I'm stupid. It means my value is constant. So you have what you possess already from whatever sources that you attribute it to. And then all you have to do now is just decide where you're going to project it and how. And that's what we're talking about: the voice, the tone, the projection, and then the outside external part of your smell, of your vision, how you present yourself to the world. And then you're going to wield it. And wielding it is just your consequence, it's your boundary. So often we'll say to people, if this happens, then, it's not going to be appropriate, or, I, prefer that you don't do that. Or sometimes even you tell people directly, don't do that. And then they do it. Okay, well, we know why they did it. It's because they wanted to and they were allowed to. We're not going to argue about why they wanted to, because it's beyond most of our abilities to change that. But we are going to talk about why they were allowed to. So a family manager, parent, caregiver, grandparent, foster parent, whoever, would make it really clear. We talked about, you're going to put your toys up in the toy bin, and you're not going to leave them on the floor. And you left your toy on the floor, and now, I tripped and fell. So the consequence is we're going to put our toys in the toy bin. And we're going to engage in behavior where they're going to practice that, and they're going to do it over and over and over again. And you're going to give them positive rewards and to reinforce the behavior. It's some basic big picture conditioning. It's the same thing at work. There's consequence. The same thing on a much larger, grander scale in politics. There's a consequence. So again, the words are meaningless if people know that you're not going to follow through with the consequence. And that's how you get people who are leaders or managers or parents in name only. Nobody listens to them and ignores them because they know they're not going to do anything. If you say to somebody, pick up your toys and leave them on the floor, and then you go in their place, and all over the entire family area, there's nothing but toys, and nothing ever happens to people who don't pick their toys up, then people will leave their toys where they want them. So the idea here is, I hope that you're uplifted and you are feeling really positive and optimistic, because you have power. You have as much or as little as you want to deploy. It's already in you. You got to figure out in your own way what your constants are. I shared some of mine with you, that I have value. Doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean I'm smart. It doesn't mean I'm anything. It just means I believe I have intrinsic value as a human, me. And that to me is a place I can go to. It gives me a lot of comfort, and it removes a lot of apprehension or anxiety or fear in life, because I feel like I'll still have my value even if I do ask a dumb question. I'll still have my value even if people are mean to me. I'll still have value even if I fail. I'll still have value. And then we're going to be judicious and deploy our power in the select places that we believe it'll give us the best outcome. We're going to make sure to have balance in our lives, so that we have other things that we experience in our lives where we don't have any kind of power. Maybe we're just following somebody else, or we're just sort of there ambivalent. I don't need to have power in but a few select places in life. So then remember, you need diversity, lots of diversity of experience, so that you can become a more knowledgeable person. If you just are in power all the time, you never learn what it's like to not be in power, and that's not healthy. You need to have a diversity of experience. And then you need to project. We talked about that, right? Everything that you're doing is projecting the power. How you stand, how you breathe, believe it or not. And then you got to wield it when you need to. Now remember, management magicians at home and at work have set up structures and have created people that they work with and live with, that are so confident that they are appreciated and trusted and respected, that there's not a lot of this sort of negative idea of, oh, I have to go manage or I have to parent, because we set up a structure, and over time there's a lot of consistency, so people know what to expect. They feel safe. So yeah, there's some issues every once in a while where we've got to make some adjustments or open up communication, but overall it's pretty automatic. People know what to do. They know where to ask for help. They have the support and the resources, and it mostly just runs like, the well-oiled machine. And it's in that way it's really positive and wonderful. That's why we say it looks like they're doing magic when we have a management magician, because it looks so effortlessly. But that's at the end of the process. It may have taken years to get the framework and set everything up the right way, bring the right team members together, and then get them invested and engaged and supported. And then yeah, once it's all set up, it does run very easily. The same thing with the family, right? So the family's there and everything runs well, but that's because it took years of adjustment when a new family member came in, when there was a big disruptive change. But once it's set up and it functions, then everyone is comfortable to explore who they are, to learn, to try and to succeed, to try and to fail. They know when to ask for help. And the manager, the leader, is also themselves on that journey of self-discovery. That's how we talked about the diversity of experience. So you don't want to be in a situation where you feel, oh, I'm powerful, I know how to do this. Great. That means you need to go out and explore and bring new things into your life so that you can be challenged, because you have got to continue to be in a situation where you don't have a clue what's going on, and you can learn to grow. You're not done learning. No one ever is. So I really am just tickled pink that you joined me in the show today. This again was episode number 147. I do encourage you to come to CourtneyAnderson.com. I do encourage you to support our show, send it out on social media, let people know about it so they can be part of our program. Please share feedback and show ideas with me. So I also want to encourage you to support our sponsors. As I've mentioned, this show has just really taken off, and it is growing and succeeding and becoming a really central part of this entire business, and it makes me really happy because I love it. One of the things that we're doing, obviously, is having our sponsors, our show sponsors, or how we're able to provide the show free of charge, obviously, to the world. So at CourtneyAnderson.com, visit some of our sponsors. Our specific show sponsor today, our highlighted show sponsor today, is Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's is a large U.S. retailer, and they have a brand that's pretty well recognized as being excellent. And they're really well known for how they treat their customers, for customer service, and having their customer feel really good about shopping there. And I have to just say that I don't really enjoy shopping much. I'm one of these people that I only go to a store when I absolutely have to, and I know exactly what I want. I go right in, I get the thing I need, I get out. I'm not someone who lingers and spends a lot of time. I don't window shop. I don't do anything like that. I'll research something to read the quality, read reviews, but then I want to go and get what I need and get out. Part of it, I'm so introverted and I'm, a bit shy. But I have to say, Nordstrom's has large retail stores. And it's one of those few stores I personally go into, and I just I really feel good. I've always had someone ask me if I need help in the American culture. That's expected, and also treat me as a customer with respect. Um, so they were selected, obviously, and have agreed to be a show sponsor, and I'm thrilled. So please come. Again, CourtneyAshton.com. We have other sponsors there that you can see on our show page, but I have to encourage this, and I have to explain why. Obviously, I select and have the final decision on who and what types of organizations will be show sponsors, and I just am thrilled and pleased that you're here, that our show sponsor is here. So, of course, there's Nordstrom's. Come to our show so that when you visit Nordstrom's, they'll know that you're coming from our show so that we get recognized and get credit for that. And get out there and continue to surpass your dreams. And remember, you already are so powerful. You have more power than you'll ever use in your life. You just have to decide what you're going to do with it. And you don't even have to worry about telling other people. They'll know. Thanks again for joining us.